Actually, we just got back from our trip. Aren't you tired of staying at home? Yeah, I remember. We went to the beach, but it was way too hot yesterday, so we took off early. Yeah, we're getting ready for school. Doesn't want to go, but what can you do, right? Alright, I'll drop by later tonight. Alright, talk to you later. Bye.
In this world, the sun has become so deadly. Going outside during the day is essentially a death sentence. So, people roam around at night. However, we have visitors. They look like humans, act like humans, talk like humans, but they're not human. No one knows exactly what they are. No one truly knows how to identify them. Some say their eyes, some say their teeth, some say the way they behave. We don't have a concrete answer. Every night, strangers desperately knock on your door, whether they want survival or to kill you. You decide whether to let them in or not. Do you let them in and risk your life? Or do you turn an innocent person away, risking theirs? This is the horrific world of no, I'm not a human. I feel like I jumped the gun a bit with that creepy intro, so let me backtrack. This project first gained attention through its demo, which dropped during an online indie game showcase, I think? The concept drew comparisons to games like Papers, Please and horror films such as The Thing. This game seemed right up my alley, and after Corey posted his first episode of the game, I knew I had to check it out. Also, let me just say that the atmosphere of this game is arguably the game's greatest strength. Most horror games try to scare you with monsters chasing you through dark hallways, but no, not here. We got a completely different approach. It wants you to feel uncomfortable every second you're playing. Even when nothing's happening, the game makes you feel like something is wrong. That's also thanks to the amazing score you hear in the background. Max Spector really outdid himself with some of these tracks. The game tells us that the sun has become deadly, forcing humanity to hide indoors during the day and only travel at night. Right away, you're thrown into a world that feels broken beyond repair. There are no heroes trying to save the day, or no hopes that things will turn to normal, mainly because this is the new normal. It's their lives now. Now, I'm not going to beat around the bush here. This does sound like another doppelganger story we have seen countless times before, but I promise you, this one's different. And even if it's not to you, then I'm still going to say it's my favorite one. After a really uncanny opening, our neighbor shows about our door and warns us about a new threat: visitors. Creatures that look and act exactly like humans who rise from the ground for some reason. Most horror stories establish clear rules about the threat, but this game does the opposite. You're given information about the visitors, but nothing feels completely reliable. Even the people trying to explain the situation, like FEMA, who I'll touch upon later, seem unsure of themselves. The game wants you to question everything from the start. It's not about the quote scare factor, it's about the fear and paranoia. I want to explain more about the visitors, but it won't make sense until I touch upon the gameplay loop first. After your neighbor leaves, you start the first night. Since the sun is very dangerous, people can only visit us at night, either seeking refuge or want to kill us. You speak with each person, listen to their story, and expect their appearance for anything suspicious. The game encourages you to play detective, but it never guarantees that you'll find a clear answer. It's really just a game of judgment. Granted, sometimes a choice feels obvious, but many times it doesn't. A person might seem completely innocent while displaying one suspicious trait, or they might act strange despite looking completely normal. The game constantly pushes you into uncomfortable gray areas, which I love. You might just be asking what's stopping you from just denying everyone. Well, the answer is right here. This is, well, we don't really know his name, but I just call him King Visitor, but people call him Pale Visitor, so I'll just call him that. Unlike the rest of these guys, he doesn't try very hard to blend in. This visitor is the most obvious looking one. He's unnaturally pale, unnervingly tall, and constantly wears a stretched smile on his face. The moment he appears, you know something isn't human about him. And then he pops the question. You alone? If you are, he does this. If you're not, he just leaves. This is why it's important to have people in the house. Visitors or not, during later visits, he'll ask about people who recently visited your home and make cryptic comments about the state of the world. Even taunt you outside your home by holding up a severed head right in front of your window. It was one of the teenagers roaming around at night. And yeah, that's basically it. Rinse and repeat throughout the nights. If there are more than 2 visitors in the house at one time, they start killing people. And if they kill everyone else, you lose. An even bigger reason as to why hiding people are the FEMA agents. At first glance, FEMA, or Federal Emergency Management Agency, seems like the closest thing the world has left to order. While everyone is panicking, they're still running investigations, collecting data, and trying to find patterns. They're the reasons you learn about the bloodshot eyes, perfect teeth, and dirty fingernails, and other visitor traits. Without FEMA, players would have almost no information to work with. However, that doesn't mean they're completely trustworthy. Realistically, they have absolutely no idea what they're doing, and are just as if not more scared than you. Because while you're just a citizen, they're supposed to be the ones to fix this. And they can't. And here's where the problem starts. You see, the agents claim they need test subjects to improve the research and identify visitors more accurately. They'll take guests from your home and bring them to quarantine facilities for further testing. Whether those people are actually being helped is left intentionally unclear, but I think that after they're done, they just kill them. This creates a moral dilemma for us. On one hand, FEMA might be humanity's best chance at understanding the visitors. On the other hand, they're hiding something. Granted, the news puts them in a really good light. However, the radio in the house that has incoming broadcasts from independent sources say otherwise. They report on how they're a hostile and really evil organization. The game never gives you a simple answer if they're heroes or villains. But like, yeah, they're villains. Come on, it's so obvious. Wow, the giant corporation is evil. Who would have guessed? These guys are not our allies, and this works with the gameplay really well. As if you don't have people in the house to give to FEMA when they come for inspection checks, they take you. And I hope I don't have to explain why that's a bad thing. This is actually a really clever way to get rid of people you know are visitors. Just give them a FEMA slip. The game might have a really addicting gameplay loop, but I think the character interactions, hell, the characters in general, are also a really big highlight of it. Some of the characters you meet are so unique from each other that I can probably name them all off the top of my head right now. But I'll just talk about a few. The Vigilante is someone you meet who actually isn't trying to get to your house. Instead, he's a visitor hunter who roams around the neighborhood armed with an AK-47, searching for anything that might be a threat. While everyone else hides in their homes, he's the one hunting the visitors and trying to keep people safe. The key word here is, trying. He describes himself as justice, believing he's bringing order to a world that's fallen apart beyond repair. But in reality, he's just making everything worse. This might be an example of how fear and paranoia change people. However, I just like to think that this is an overly cocky guy who just decided he was going to play God. Later in the game, we see him set our neighbor's house on fire and kill him, as well as his daughter. Probably because he failed one of his stupid tests or something. As well as executing refugees that used the ruins of the house as a safe haven to protect themselves. After that, he burned all the surrounding houses in the area to not risk the, quote, virus spreading. The game doesn't give us a clear answer as whether it could spread, but I don't think it can. He thinks he's the main character and his job is to protect people, but he just wants to seem important. In reality, he's a nobody. He just causes destruction. He has a necklace of fingers and teeth of victims who he claims are visitors, but I don't know how true that is. This leads me into one of the core parts of the gameplay loop. You can, quote, test yourself. Sometimes he'll show up at your door and ask to test you, and if you fail any of the tests, you get one of the endings. He points his gun at the door, ready to shoot. Now, so do we, obviously to protect ourselves. However, he has a rifle, and we have a shotgun. So we both shoot, and we both get shot. But only one of us dies, due to the shotgun blast. We beat the lifeless corpse of the Vigilante to a pulp, grieving everyone he took. grieving your neighbor and his daughter, grieving the victims of the house fires. We take our shotgun and vow to kill anyone who has another weapon, stopping other possible vigilantes. However, I think this falls under the same problem I had with the vigilante. What if people had a gun for self-defense against psychos like him? This is a really bad ending in my opinion because the cycle just repeats. There's no justice, it's just revenge. Speaking of our neighbor, I don't feel like I touched upon him enough. It's alluded that he's actually the vigilante's brother, but I don't know how that fits in the lore. What makes the neighbor memorable is how much he trusts us. I was kind of doing the whole showing on telling thing at the start of the episode, but that was him on the phone at the start of the game. Despite the world falling apart, he still believes in helping others. He doesn't approach every interaction with a gun, or just assume everyone's a visitor. Instead, he tries to maintain some sense of community. In many ways, he acts the way most people hope they would act during a crisis. Unfortunately, that gets him killed, but that just shows how fucked up everyone else is. It could also be because you have known him for a really long time, but he's still a nice guy regardless. One other important character I want to talk about is the cashier. That's her job. It's irrelevant right now, but just hear me out. No matter what you do, she will always be a visitor in every single run of the game, along with the Coke guy, the Immortal Man, and a few others. But she is special. I swear to God, playing this, okay, well, not me playing it because for the first part of this game, I watched Corey's playthrough, but him playing this, I thought for sure she was a human. I mean, she had a whole tragic backstory about being taken advantage of by two men. Like, you really can't make this up. And yet, boom. When he killed her, it was revealed that she was actually a visitor.
All this crap getting under my fingernails. I couldn't have been walking around filthy for this long, could I? How odd. I'm scared of dying. Wait, can you cover my eyes? Do you have some kind of bandage? She was a visitor!
I was gonna clown Corey for this decision, but no. He was right. They goes to such a great length to fool you and come up with excuses to why signs match. But Jesus Christ, man, when they get you, they get you. I also want to touch upon some parallels to real life because there's a really big one that I'm not allowed to say the word, but back in 2020, there was a period where people generally didn't know what was happening. Information changed constantly as scientists, or in this case FEMA, learned more. One week they had safe precautions, and later it will be updated or just replaced. FEMA's visitors test feel like the same thing. The information isn't necessarily malicious, even though FEMA is, but it's incomplete. Everyone is trying to solve a problem they don't fully understand. This is a misconception that I want people to comment on this episode trying to debunk me, because I may have been explaining it wrong, but yeah, FEMA are doing their job. They are technically trying to help us, but like, come on, they are malicious. All the information they give us are true. They want the visitors gone just as much as we do. But again, they are evil. During 2020, something as ordinary as standing near a stranger suddenly felt different. People became more aware of symptoms, or in this case signs, and possible exposure. A person stopped being just a person and became someone who might unknowingly pose a threat. I can go on about theories but the rabbit hole just goes so deep. Plus, there isn't a point. Other creators cover these topics way better than I can, so go check them out after you're done this episode. And as good as the game may be, I do have issues with it. This section is going to be very brief, but again, no game is perfect. Listen, it's not as bad as the show that shall not be named, but this game has some serious pacing problems. Some nights are packed with important events, major character interactions, and dramatic reveals like the Pale Visitor or the Vigilante, but other days, barely anything happens. Yeah, jack shit. While this helps create realism and tension, certain stretches can feel slow, especially on repeat playthroughs when you already know what's coming. There's also an issue of replayability versus repetition. The game has multiple endings with different outcomes, which encourages replaying it. However, seeing those different outcomes often requires replaying the entire game with the same gameplay loop all over again. Granted, the visitors are randomized, but still, hell, 2 of the endings require you to play the game twice. Why not just include a chapter system or a night system? The game takes place within 2-week periods, so let's have the option between week 1 or 2 and fill the house with 2 humans when we pick week 2. I don't know. This is off topic, but I find it funny how of these 2 endings, one of them is the hardest to get, and somehow Corey, after playing like absolute shit, got it. I really don't know how. This is a negative for me, as the gameplay loop is really entertaining. The uncertainty of who will show what your door next will always captivate me. However, there's some people who don't like it. I get it. The core gameplay loop doesn't change much throughout the game. They're constantly expecting people, checking traits, reading reports, and deciding who to trust. That's a fantastic premise, but after several hours, some players just feel like they're performing the same routine over and over and over again. The story and character interactions help keep things fresh, but mechanically, the game can become a bit repetitive. I would have appreciated maybe every other night there was a new mechanic that you had to take care of, like maybe checking the windows for something, I don't know. Also, one more tiny thing, but great horror often alternates between tension and relief, and this game frequently keeps its foot on the gas. I feel like the only time it lets off is at the very end of the day going into the night. Now, you may have noticed I've talked about various characters in the game. Ema, the giant king visitor, but what about us, the player? I never mentioned that, have I? Well, who are we? Well, we live alone in a house on the edge of town. We clearly hate living here for some reason. Bad memories and all. Memories are linked with our father, but I'll touch upon that later. Before the events of the game, he was already isolated, not very social. He's basically a shut-in who avoided people so long before the apocalypse that made that kind of life necessary to survival. The game hints that he wasn't always completely alone though. There's signs of his past relationship, like a photo in the house referencing a woman who was maybe his wife? But I don't have enough information to accurately predict what happened to her. Personality-wise, he comes off as a very serious guy who dislikes dealing with people, which is really funny and ironic because his survival now depends on constantly interacting with strangers that show up at his door. Our dad's either absent or dead by the time the game takes place. He's never physically present in the main story, but he's referenced in ways that suggest that he had a really bad influence on our life before everything fell apart. I may have a theory even killed our own dad, as there's a very particular spot in the cellar that's covered up by dirt, but I don't know. It's not ambiguous. This guy wants to be left alone. Forever. No wife, no kids. He just wants to be all by himself. Our dad exists more like a shadow in the background of our life. You don't get a clear story of what happened to him, or what kind of person he really was. That uncertainty is intentional because the game is constantly doing this with everything. People, memories. I kinda like the ambiguity of it all. It really makes me think. There's no mention of a mom's, maybe our dad either abused us and our mom, and she ended up leaving, having the dad take all his anger out on us, or another theory, the mom passed away, and that caused dad to grow even more violent. Nevertheless, we make it to the end of the game. Also, I watched all the endings besides the one I actually got, and we learned what happened to the mom, but let's just save that for later. Okay, let's talk about the endings of the game. There's like 10, I think, but I'll go over the important ones. Scenario A is you survive until the very end of the game, and there's no visitors in your house. After enough days have passed, we realize the sun has gotten so dangerous that we, and when I say we, I mean all the people in the house, including us, go down into the cellar to stay safe. Eventually, days turn into weeks, which turn into months, but one day, we hear on the radio that solar activity is fading, and it will be safe to go outside sooner or later. The world may never fully recover, sure, but this ending is about preserving a small piece of humanity long enough to see tomorrow. So, why are we sad about it? This is considered the good ending, but we don't seem too happy about this. We wonder if next summer will be our last. And the thought of living on is such a burden to us. We want to die. But who knows, maybe there are still decades left ahead of us. I think the way you feel this way is due to the concept of loneliness. That loneliness doesn't really come from being alone in a physical sense. We seem to want this for us. It's because it mirrors something we've already carried along before the apocalypse. We used to have a wife, a mom, our neighbor, people we cared about, and they're gone now. And we're alone. All alone. We don't want to replace them, and we don't want anybody else. We're forced to live in a world where this is the new normal. And that's the game. However, what about scenario B? This is essentially the exact same as scenario A, however, we let 2 or more visitors into the basement with us. We hear on the news that it's safe to go outside, but that doesn't matter because they're here now. And they tear you to shreds. There's a whole lot of other weird endings to this game, like one where a visitor baby's born and a cult starts to praise it, one where we actually join FEMA and sell out, and one where we go down to a hole in the basement and meet a floating entity. Actually, you know what? I'll talk about this one. You meet this floating entity and he brings you to a place, a house, with no people. And you live there forever. A reference to the world's loneliest house on Elede Island. Most people see this as a dream-like ending, but I actually think this is the afterlife. And we died. I mean, think about it. We willingly fell down a hole. We obviously had some thought of what could happen, and we did it anyway. Like I mentioned before, we want to die. At the end of the day, we got what we wanted. To be alone forever. But that doesn't mean we're happy. We will never be. However, there's one more ending I want to talk about. The alone ending. I'm not sure which of these endings are considered canon, but if I had to take a guess, unfortunately, it's this one. We survived till the end. All by ourselves. We killed off everyone. FEMA took them. Whatever. We just made it to the end by ourselves. And when we got to the basement, we were trapped. We convinced ourselves that we did the right thing. And asked ourselves if we had the strength to tell our father how much we hated him. Would we have left? Would our mother be proud of what we're done? This confirms what I mentioned earlier. We killed our dad with this very gun. It's also revealed that our dad killed our mom by pushing her off that cliff. That's why we never looked out that window. What a powerful ending. There's lots of things I glossed over. The weird guy with no mouth, like one of the things here that chosen one, whatever that means. But this is how you make a video game. I've been reviewing stuff about a year at this point, and nothing that I've played that was new pulled my heartstrings as much as this game did. There were moments where I wanted to help someone, but genuinely couldn't shake the feeling that something was just wrong. This draws some parallel to the real world, where people who passed away during the pandemic genuinely thought it was the end of the world. I believe the theme of this game isn't about corporate corruption or survival, it's trust. The theme of this game is trust. The tragedy is, many people are scared just like we are. They're hungry, they're petrified, they haven't slept in days. They've watched the entire world collapse around them. All they have is their world. But in a world filled with visitors, a human's world just isn't enough. So the takeaway from this game is love thy neighbor. And before you ask, no, I'm not a human. Thanks for watching.